Hello, I'm going to give you story number 3, third encounter I had with an angel. What I believe to be an angel. You decide. I determined it most likely was an angel. Mysterious man, good-natured, saves my life, appears out of nowhere and then vanishes. So I put him down as an angel, my thoughts, but I'll tell you what happened. And I'll try to get through this. I tend to drag on these. This took place when I was a young man, newly enlisted in the United States Army. I signed up for the 82nd Airborne as an airborne infantryman, which means I had to be a paratrooper, which means I had to go to parachute or jump school, U.S. Army jump school after boot camp. And that's what I did. I got through 16 weeks of boot camp and advanced infantry training, Harmony Church, Fort Benning, Georgia. And they put us on a bus and drove us about 10 minutes over to the other side of Fort Benning to a U.S. Army parachute school. And I was in really good shape at that point and really quite used to drill sergeants and sergeants yelling, and, I was totally ready for parachute school, in top shape and mentally tough still, and really just goofing off, kind of enjoying life, believe it or not. And so I wasn't really paying attention in class a whole lot, even though they were kicking people out right and left. I think we lost 25% of our class. They'd kick people out for any small infraction or failure to meet standards. But I breezed through it because I was totally ready for it, coming right out of boot camp and AIT. And some of the other guys that got there, they weren't, apparently. Or they just had bad luck, some of them. Honestly, some of them just had bad luck. Got injured or something like that. So there's phases of parachute jump school. We're ground week, where you learn all about the parachute and the harness and the aircraft door and such. And then there's tower week, actually where you go up on these jump towers and where they hoist you up in parachutes. Like if they hoist you up, way up, like 200 feet up, and then they drop it and you actually glide down and you land, do your PLF, parachute landing fall. And that's Tower Week. And if you Google Fort Benning, Georgia, jump towers, you will see pictures of these jump towers. They still use them, my understanding. They've been using these since, I think, World War II. You get through that Tower Week, then you've got your final week of parachute school is Jump Week, where you do 1 parachute jump a day for 5 total. And my first parachute jump is where this event takes place, on Friar Drop Zone, Fort Benning, Georgia. And to put it in perspective, here's a picture of me taken at the picture on. This picture was taken probably within a week or two of the event I'm talking about. To put it in perspective, that's me when this happened, quite a while ago. And obviously, it was a mock-up. I think they were making some money off these, honestly, like charges like $10, $20 for these pictures. Everybody got them. Picture off. So, I did my first parachute jump. It was daytime, Friar Drop Zone. It wasn't like when I get to the 82nd Airborne, the parachute jumps were a lot tougher. We didn't do them during the daytime. We did them late at night, usually 3 or 4 in the morning, in all kinds of weather. And when I went to parachute school for this first jump, all I had was my helmet, uniform, my reserve parachute, my parachute, and a equipment belt. No weapons, no pack, nothing. When I would jump later in the 82nd Airborne, I'd have over 100 pounds of gear and weapons strapped to me, and well over 100 pounds counting the parachute. It was pretty tough. But not these jumps were pretty easy. These 5 jumps weren't that difficult. My first jump, broad daylight, it would turn out fairly windy for a parachute jump. That's one thing, you don't want to do parachute jumps in the wind, especially with those Army parachutes, the old ones. I was using what they call a T-10 parachute, which is darn near World War II era. Really old parachute. Works just fine, but you can only steer them so much. You can't do much. So it was a windy day, and I remember on the left door, like if the front of the aircraft is that way, the pilot, front of the aircraft are behind me. I'm lined up facing the back of the aircraft, and there's about 20 guys in front of me and about 20 behind me. And we're just moving towards the door, and out the door we go, right? So stand up, hook up, and they open those doors, and it gets really loud, and everybody's adrenaline is right through the ceiling. Guys are hooping and hollering, and it's pretty, quite an adrenaline rush, especially when you're a young man. Next thing you know, green light, go, and the next thing you know, I'm moving forward towards that door. That wide door with all the daylight shining through, and I'm thinking, yeah, everything in your natural instincts telling you don't do this. But you know, you're going to do it. You can't, besides you got guys behind you, you got to keep going. You're hooked up to a static line. So I get there and I get to the doors here, and the jump master who's standing in front of me would take my cable and I go out the door, right? And I looked at him, I was so cocky, young then, and I yelled some things to him that I'm not going to say on here. I called him some names and laughed at him, and then threw him the static line and went out the door. I still remember the look on his face. He was really shocked and upset. They never found out. I was right. They never would really know who it is because it all happened so fast. So, I was that kind of guy then, but you're supposed to be kind of cocky when you're a paratrooper infantryman. Well, I went out the door. All the cockiness went away. My first parachute jump. Prop blast coming out the side of an aircraft, going maybe 160 miles an hour or faster. I'm not sure how fast they're going. Have you ever been hit by a giant wave on the ocean, on the beach, where it just tumbles you around in the surf and the sand and the water? Well, that's what it's like getting hit by the prop blast coming out the side door of aircraft. You're supposed to go out like this, so that, you know, if you go out like this, like I probably did, the wind will spin you around and it'll tangle up your static lines and stuff, and that could be big trouble, which happened to me a couple of times. On this one, everything went as planned. I still remember it. You know, it dropped. It kind of felt like a baby bird, you know, out there, helpless. And then whoosh, my parachute opened up, and oh, thank God. Now all the aircraft and all that commotions, they're flying away. And now it's just the wind and the blue sky, and we were up there pretty high, probably 1,500 feet, at least 1,000 feet, where a combat jump is 500 to 800 feet, because you don't want to be up in the sky in combat any longer than you have to be. That's why it's usually at night, low altitude. Well, we were up there about 1,000 or 1,500, broad daylight. Everything's quiet. All these planes, there's probably 3 of them, they're flying off. Their history. The sandy drop zones beneath us a long ways. And I could see some of my friends floating by me because there was wind. We just didn't go down. People were going all over the place. And we were waving our arms like a bunch of hot dogs and calling each other names. Hey, asshole. All this stuff. Hey, look. We were yelling things I'm not even going to say. We're laughing it up, you know, clowning around. And we didn't think, but all the sergeants were down below watching this thing. And those guys, we caught heck for that. Here's where the angel story comes in. Leading up. Sorry for the lead up. Well, I must have grabbed, because I remember I was going pretty fast this way. And what I should have done, because I realized it's time to get serious because the ground's coming up. You know, the ride's over here real quick. I should have grabbed this side of the risers and pulled them down into my chest, which if this is the parachute, it would have made the parachute go like this, which would have arrested it some. You know, it would have slowed it down so it's not going over here. But instead of doing that, I think what I must have done, I might be wrong, but it's the only thing I can think of. I must have grabbed the wrong side and pulled this side down because, like I said, I wasn't paying attention in class. I was a goof off. You know, I pulled the wrong side down. As a result, I flew way with the wind away from everybody. I mean, I flew away from the whole group. In fact, I flew away from the drop zone. And I wound up landing in a giant swamp all by myself. There was nobody else around. So a vast swamp in Georgia. Probably had snakes, could have been some crocs in it. Who knows? Georgia swamp. I know it was like brown soup water. I wound up hitting that water, splash, went under briefly, came up, thinking, wow, right? And next thing you know, if this is my parachute, this is me, and splash, I land, and the wind took my parachute this way, and then when I got up, it filled up with air, and it started pulling me through the water. And I couldn't stop it. I mean, I was trying to stop it. I was struggling against it, but my parachute was filled up with water, air, that is, and the wind was blowing it, and it was pulling me through the water. And I was hitting stumps and things, and I'd go underwater, and I'd come up, and I was trying to take the harness off. And then, this is where the angel comes in. I think he was an angel. This old black man, right? Just happened to be, if this is where my parachute landed, this is where I hit in the water, and the parachute came down like this, and for a little bit, it started carrying me. And this guy was standing right there, and he jumped on my parachute and collapsed it, and he was laughing and laughing, laughing. All he did was laugh nonstop. A good-hearted Santa Claus from your belly kind of good-natured laugh. But he just happened to, he wasn't there when I first hit the water. And I looked up and saw my parachute. I didn't see anybody near it. And it started dragging me. Next thing you know, this guy's there in the middle of this vast swamp on a military post. And he wasn't a military person because he was gray, had gray hair, he's bald-headed, didn't have a hat, bald as I am, had white hair and a long white beard, totally white beard down to his belly. And he was a black African guy. And average build, I don't know, looked like he could have been in his 60s, 70. I don't know, but he was just laughing and laughing, and he collapsed my parachute, which ended my danger. I could stand up, the wind was no longer able to pull it because he collapsed it down. And then he started wadding it all up. He gathered it up for me, and he started walking towards me. And I'm like, thank you, and he just kept laughing, ho, ho, like a Santa, I can't do his laugh, but a good-natured, deep laugh. And not that he was laughing at me like I was some kind of a chump. Good-natured laugh. And he started coming up to me because this is training, and I had to take my parachute in. It's the combat. I suppose you just leave your parachute, whatever, you bury it or do something with it. No. They gave you this canvas bag. You had to put all that in there and turn it in. This is training. And the guy come up to me, and he's standing about this far away from me. And he had on faded blue dungarees, blue jean, dungarees that come over with like two straps, like a one piece with a bib and two straps, blue, real faded. And he had like a white and red flannel shirt on, really old and faded. And a long, long gray beard down to here. Bald-headed, no hat, totally white hair, beard, dark against like his dark brown skin. I'm just saying, I'm trying to describe this. And he's laughing and laughing, and he had a twinkle in his eye, good-natured person. I'm wondering, where did he come from? I'm like, thank you so much, thank you. And I'm trying to get this harness off, the parachute harness. It's not coming off. And he's laughing, and he just reaches out with one hand, and he goes, just hits my chest like, pow. Because he was standing in front of me, and the whole harness just dropped off into the water. And I'm like, wow, thanks. And I get out of the harness, and I'm thanking him. And he just kept laughing. He never said a single word. He just laughed. Good-natured laugh, with a smile and everything. And I turned and left because I had to go. And I didn't go very far, and I turned around to look at him again, and he was gone. He was nowhere, anywhere. He was not there. And this was a swamp. I'd say the water was chest deep. Pretty much chest deep. Different places. But where I was at, it was up to here. And where'd he go? There weren't any trees. There weren't any islands or bushes. Anything. This is just a vast, soupy Georgia swamp. And he vanished. And just like he showed up, how could he have been there? Exactly where he needed to be. In that swamp. To collapse my parachute. To stop it from dragging me through the water, which is very dangerous, actually. It's very dangerous. People drown that way. Get tangled up in the static lines, up underneath some roots, and you can drown that way. And he just happened to be out there in the exact place he needed to be. And it's a military post. People don't live on there. Not like he had a shack somewhere in the woods there. That wouldn't be. So, it's a secured post, a military post. And he vanished, and there was nowhere that he could have run to hide. There just wasn't, because I wasn't that far away from him, and there weren't any trees or any place he could have hidden. All right, that's the story. So I figured, like story 2, the man on the bridge, who just showed up out of nowhere, saved my life, and then he vanished. And story 1, they look like angels, tall, white shining robes, Caucasian in story 1, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, I think they were blue-eyed, giant men, shining white robes, smiling at me, good-natured. And remember I said that they looked like they wanted to start laughing, like they had a sense of humor with me, and this guy was laughing a lot. The guy in story 2 wasn't laughing. He looked like he could have been Italian, dressed contemporary, black pants, black shoes, and a white shirt tucked in, no hat, black hair, clean shaven, maybe 30, 35, medium build, medium height. So there's 3 things in common with these. 3, I think 2 or 3. One was their demeanor, laughter, the twinkle in their eye and the look of humor, like they wanted to laugh in story 1. Story 2, no. And this guy was laughing. Another thing, a common denominator with all 3 of these, was water. Story 1, they were standing in the stream, the 2 angels. Story 2, the man on the bridge, was on a bridge over the Canal River. And this story, story 3, was in a swamp. So water, I don't know if that means something, but these are my 3 angel stories. I got possibly a 4th. Maybe I'll tell a story about a tragedy, a helicopter crash, accident. A lot of people were killed, and a mysterious person pulled me off that in the last minute, and I might get to that. I don't know he didn't vanish. I don't know where he went or what happened. I don't know. Whoever he was, I don't know. I've never seen him before or since, and he's definitely saved my life. But I have a bit of a toothache, sorry. Well, that's story 3, the encounter with the angels. Is there anything else to that story? No, that's it. We got in trouble for carrying on like a bunch of yin-yangs up in the sky or laughing at each other, but with that guy, no. What stands out with me was his laughter and the way he showed up right where he needed to be in the middle of that swamp and did the things I talked about, and then he vanished. So I figured he probably was an angel. Possibly they can appear in any type of form, Possibly. I don't know. I'm just sharing his experience with you. It's my life testimony, and I'm sure you have yours. So that's part of our calling while we're here, is to share our life testimony. And I wonder why, I wanted to add this, I've just remembered this, that, I've had these things happen to me, and I've got a lot of other stories that I could share of miraculous things. Why did these things happen to me? Am I special? I don't think so. Necessarily not at all. Jesus told Thomas, I think it was John 15:16, and I'm not sure of the verse. Jesus told Thomas, you believe because you've seen. And Jesus said, but I say, blessed are those who believe that have not seen. So your faith, if you're a Christian and you believe and you haven't seen these things I'm talking about, your faith is probably stronger than mine. I don't think I have great faith. And maybe I needed to see these things to help my faith. And also maybe God knew that I would tell of these things. And that's why they happened, because he knew I would share this testimony as I am. And I really don't care what anybody thinks, honestly. If they think bad things, I hope you get something good out of it. And maybe it'll spur you on to share your testimony. And I just don't tell these things on YouTube. I tell people that I hang out with occasionally. I have my whole life. I've told these stories over and over. So, blessed are those who believe, who have not seen. And for those of us that have seen, I think we have a duty to share it, to share these experiences. Okay, thank you. Take care.